I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, held on May 7th, 2013 at 6 p.m. at the City Council Chambers Building. Deputy Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pfeiffer.
Here.
Councilmember Norman.
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky. Here. Councilmember Dowling.
Here.
Councilmember Howergy and Pratt are not here tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councilmember Howergy has been absent for quite a few meetings. I haven't heard anything from him, so I can't report to council or the public when he might return. Okay, the next item is Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Spencer Midkiff with us tonight to lead us in the pledge.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a certificate for you.
At least twice a month.
We would just like to say thank you for your citizenship. You want to bring it around? All right.
And I would like to say thank you on behalf of CIC.
You're welcome. It's a great job. We're very proud of you all. Okay, the next item is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Mr. Bartosh.
Madam Mayor and council members, we continue to get in great reviews on the Mickelson Marathon. We're still getting emails of thanks and great job, and it's amazing that it seems like a whole bunch of the participants really enjoyed the volunteers, that the volunteers were very encouraging and really did a nice job out there. So a special thanks to our volunteers for making it so wonderful for the participants.
Great.
Just a reminder to the public that your mail ballots, you should have received them by now, and we have a council vote, 2 council members in a runoff election, as well as the permanent base adjustment, and so we're encouraging the public to make sure that they turn in their ballots. In case you haven't noticed, the Old Town Jail parking lot has begun, is under construction this week, and they're moving right along. Just so the council knows that the new software, citywide software that the council authorized this year is beginning the installation phase, and this is the enterprise resource planning software, which will have our accounting, our business license, our utilities, everything will be on this new software, and that'll begin the installation process real soon here. And last but not least, the employee spring fling is this Friday, and we'll be recognizing some of our employees for their years of service, and also the employee and safety employee of the year, as well as recognizing our valuable volunteers during that event. So if the council can make it out, we begin about 2 at Riverfront Park, and it should be a good time for all. And that's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, council. Vice Mayor?
I went to the fair on Friday and Saturday, and my only disappointment was that nobody would go on the zipper with me. But we went and watched looked at the livestock and watched the auction and all, and the young people in this community with the animals that they raise and the love and care that they give them, it's inspiring. If nobody's ever done it, you ought to take time next year and go visit the barns and watch the auction and watch these kids in action. They're amazing.
And
That's
that
great.
item, Vice Mayor, next time call me, I'll rush down.
Will you go on the zipper
I
with
will.
me? I love the zipper.
I don't know what it is, but
I just make the height recommendation.
You can probably get the entire CYAC to go with you.
Yeah, they'd go on the zipper with me.
They do it. Any other, yes?
Linda and I had the great opportunity to be interviewed last Wednesday, and they just emailed us and let us know that
Thursday.
Was it Thursday? Okay. Weeks all blending together, but it's available to be viewed on Cable Channel 2. It was a forum between Linda and I, and filmed by Verde Valley, Yavapai Broadcasting. So it's on, verdevalleytv.com?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And also Channel 2.
Okay, so verdevalleytv.com. My guess is it might be on YouTube also. Usually they are.
I think it is, yeah.
Channel as well.
And if you want to watch any of these on YouTube, you just need to get Verde Valley TV. If you put that in the search, it'll bring up all these televised episodes of government.
Good.
And the League of Women Voters have it on their website.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the public submitted a series of questions, so we answered questions for about an hour.
Great.
Good program.
Okay, I'll definitely tune in. Anything else, Council? If not, we haven't officially met for a regular meeting since the 20th of April, so I have kind of a long list here, but I'll try to make it short. I attended the Arizona Town Hall meeting, and our city manager, Doug Bartosh, was there to talk about his experiences in attending Town Hall, and gave a really excellent presentation on leadership, on what he learned and shared with us. It was really good. And we also had Casey Rooney, our Economic Development Director, who led the meeting. So it was a great meeting. I want to announce to all that we have Bike to Work on Friday, May 17th at 8:30 a.m. So Bike to Work is your big chance. It's the mayor and council's day, and the community to come and ride with us. And we might talk about this a little bit later in the meeting. I attended a Fit Kids grand opening, and they're located now where the Rough Cuts Commercial Center is. On April 20th, I attended the Buena Vista Children's Services 20th celebration. They've been doing that for 20 years now, right there in the Civic Center. And there were lots and lots of kids there. It was fun to see them all. I attended the Bonner House signing. This is Habitat for Humanity, and they invited us, the members of the public, to come and sign one of the plywood studs, boards, whatever you call them. I'm not. And there were some members of the community doing that. At the Verde Valley Leadership Summit, our very own Robert Valentine, who's president of CYAC, Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission, won the Youth Award. And Ruth Wicks, I think everyone probably knows Ruth, she won the Adult Award. Rock and Roxy, who's a local Zumba instructor here in town, had a dance walk on Earth Day, and we danced. I really just walked, honest, from Desert Dancer to the new roundabout and back down to Desert Dancer. Desert Dancer has moved on West Mingus, where Dr. Hoffbauer's office used to be. They purchased that building, and they have a store that's open there now. I attended NACOG in Flagstaff on the 25th, and I invited Councilmember-elect Randy Garrison to attend with me so he could learn about Northern Arizona Council of Governments. I attended the April 26th Governor's Annual Volunteer Service Awards reception, and we'll be learning more about that this evening. I attended the Kids Against Hunger and Manzanita Outreach Open House, and as you know, Kids Against Hunger is a local group of people that pack rice and other nutritious meals for children in Haiti. They also do some here, and it's Karen Freeman and Kim Gold, I think, are the leaders of that group. So they have a new place to meet and to pack their food now, and it's in the new Verde Valley Christian Church on 6th Street.
The old Phelps.
where the old Phelps building used to be. So they're very thrilled about that. And there's the big truck doors where they can back up the product, and so it's really going to be great for them. On May 1st, I was invited to do an Old Town Walk by Karen Leff, who owns Cottonwood Hotel, and she was hosting the Highway 89A Appreciation Society. And there are about 29 folks that came in on a bus and toured Old Town. And the fun part was that the Wild Rose Tea House down in the Old Town Jail had just opened that day. So we got to go there. If you haven't been to their secret garden and back, it is so neat. It's just a great place, so everybody ought to check that out. On May 3rd, oh wait, missed one here. On May 2nd, I was honored to be invited to the Elks Lodge, who was giving their Youth Week Awards. And about a month ago, I guess I failed to mention this, but I received the Citizen of the Year Award from the Elks. And one of these days, I'll probably get that on an agenda and bring it and show it to you. On May 3rd, I went to Prescott for John McCain's townhouse that he had, and he explained in detail his plan and thoughts on immigration, which I think seemed to be the point of the meeting, and he explained it very well. I really appreciated his thoughts on it and his plan, and all of his ideas of how to make this work. On Saturday, the Compassionate Friends had its balloon release in honor of community members who have lost their children. And yesterday I met up with Linda Heidenreich. If council will recall, she is doing the Water Literacy for Kindergartners program. And they've been doing this for a couple, 3 weeks now. I think she's got a couple, 2 or 3 different classes. It's Mr. Dix's class of kindergartners, but she only takes 8 kids at a time or so, so she has to divide all that up. She takes them to the Verde River and shows them the river. Her name is Miss H2O, so they call her Miss H2O. She's really a great teacher. And I did mention it was Linda Heidenreich, right? And she's a community volunteer. She's from Jerome. And she created this program for these children. But it is actually a partnership with her and then the city of Cottonwood and also Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. So we all work together to help educate these children about conservation. And they go and they see Roger at the water tank. And then they also, I caught up with them at the wastewater treatment plant, and they were touring that. And Ms. Heidenreich has them walk. They have to learn about how walking is good, so they walk clear from, I guess, where the tanks are on, let's see, by the guidance clinic. They walk clear from there up to the wastewater treatment plant. And they do a great job, and then they also ride the bus. And so she's trying to teach them public transportation and that sort of thing. So I just want to thank the council for supporting that program, and I really appreciate you. I think it's a good program. And that's my report.
Mayor?
Madam
Yes.
Mayor?
Two of my great-granddaughters have been there in Mr. Dix's class.
Okay, have they been
And
through
I
the
got the
program?
lecture on conserving water and everything that he told them from both of the girls at separate times, but they learned an awful lot that day.
That's great. Well, yes, Mr. Bartosh?
Just a couple of items, and one on the water program. Roger was really thrilled to tell us about the tiny reflective traffic vests they bought for each of the kids.
They were really cute. When I saw them walking up the street, you could see them like a half a mile down the street, and then I walked and met them. But those vests were adorable, and they just thought they were big shots. Then also they have water bottles that the city provides with a strap, because Ms. H2O truly believes that the children will not drink the water if it's in their backpacks. And so her #1 thing is it has to have a strap on it. So they carry this water around their little shoulders down the street, and when they get thirsty, they have a drink so they don't get dehydrated. But
next year, Roger's looking at small hard hats for them.
and I think a Small Heart, oh, they would love that. And their teacher is here tonight for another issue, Mr. Dix. So do you have any comments about?
I just think I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for that. It's a wonderful program. The kids really love it. We had a third kindergarten this year, so there were 63 kids that went through this one. So, but they really enjoyed it, and it's fun, educational, and so thank you so much. So, yeah, it was a great time for them. The walking thing, hard for some of them, so
I bet.
It was good to get them out and walking.
That's great.
Mrs. H2O is wonderful. She gives them samples, plant samples, rock samples. When they do the jail trail rock, where they go down here, they take the CATS bus, they come down here for the jail trail walk. They go down, they look at plants, the soil, the water, they do the whole thing. So it's a wonderful, wonderful program.
And then one other thing I want to share that I just remembered is Debbie Breikwitz is in the program, the curriculum called The Queen of Pooh. And the kids just love that. So anyway, it's a great program, and we appreciate the involvement of all the partners.
A couple other things, Mayor, that I forgot. Just so the council knows, we had a delegation from Mexico in Cottonwood today, looking at what we're doing here in Cottonwood, particularly with our Old Town area, and they were also touring the Verde Valley to some extent, but Lana Tollison from the Chamber was giving them the tour through town. And then I thought I should also mention, since we won't have another meeting before the event takes place, on May 18th and 19th is the MS ride, and there was a great article in the Arizona Republic yesterday talking about how this event was being held in Cottonwood, and they anticipate anywhere from 800 to 1,000 bike riders. Just to let our public know that a lot of those will be staying overnight at the kids park, and they'll be riding all over the Verde Valley as they complete their ride. And Cottonwood has a competition going against Sedona to raise the most money, but more so to do the most miles. And so if anybody feels like supporting Jesse, myself, the mayor, I think Barron's going to ride with us, so we would appreciate the support.
Yes, anything to add to that?
Oh, well, just if you see me wobbling down the road, try not to hit me. I'm up to 7 or 8 miles at a shot now, so I'm just going to do my best to participate in this, and I really feel fortunate that it's here in the area. My wife has MS, so there is a personal connection on this, and it really just feels great to be able to give back and work with the rest of the city, and it really show our city off. You know, last year they came up and participated in wind and snow and sleet, and they wanted to come back, so they must have liked it somehow. So maybe it'll be a little bit nicer this year. I hope.
And I have to report that yesterday or the day before, my husband, I said, would you please get my bike out? And he got it out. It's a 1962 Western Flyer. And he had to go get a new tube for it because I haven't ridden it since the last mayor's ride. But I always try to participate the best I can also. So, exciting times. Okay, so the next item is Proclamation National Kids to Parks. Is there anyone here tonight to pick up this proclamation? So we weren't sure that there would be. Okay, proclamation. Whereas May 18th, 2013 is the 3rd National Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks because of the decline in park attendance over the last decades. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas National Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, hereby proclaim to participate in National Kids to Parks Day and urge residents of the city of Cottonwood to make time May 18, 2013, to take children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, the 7th day of May, 2013. The next item is
Madam
another...
Mayor?
Yes.
And I'd just like to inform the public that through the council's budget process last year, the council budgeted for the replacement of the play equipment at Garrison Park and Riverfront Park. And the play equipment at Garrison, most of the components have been replaced on that. The equipment was getting quite old and rusty. Same with Riverfront Park. That play apparatus will be completely replaced. It's over 22 years old, and so it was really showing the wear and tear. So we'll have new equipment down at Riverfront Park hopefully in the next 30 days. And then the any money we have left over, we're going to put in some small equipment over at
Viejo
Park.
Okay, great.
And so all of our parks will have new equipment, and even tonight the council will be considering the approval of an additional water play apparatus at the rec center, which people don't think of as a park, but it really is, kind of fits in that category.
Water park. That's a great day to be a child in Cottonwood.
It is.
Okay, the next item is the proclamation, and it's Bike Month. Whereas for more than a century, the bicycle has been an important part of the lives of most Americans, and whereas today Americans are turning to bicycle more than ever before as a means of becoming a part of the solution in our nation's quest to better our citizens' health, improve our environmental quality, and promote our energy independence, and do overwhelmingly support improving our quality of life and providing quality recreational opportunities for our families and our visitors. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists and its chapters have declared May as Bike Month since 1956, and whereas the City of Cottonwood Bicycle Advisory Committee, our Valley's chapter of the League, and independent cyclists throughout Arizona are calling for greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety in an effort to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities, and to increase enjoyment for all. Now therefore I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim May 2013 as Bicycle Awareness Month and the week of May 13th through 17th to be Bike to Work Week throughout all of Cottonwood, and I urge all residents, schools, city departments, and civic groups to support bicycling, and for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists to work together to share our streets, roads, and trails. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, the 7th day of May, 2013. And before I call up Dr. Bob to accept this proclamation, I just want to announce that we're having a bicycle rack design competition. And the City of Cottonwood would like to put bicycle racks in front of all city buildings. Community leaders are looking for a young artist with the talent to design on paper a bike rack that would be unique to Cottonwood, Arizona. The only requirement is that there is space to incorporate the logo for the City of Cottonwood. And here are some interesting examples. I'll hold this up in a minute. The deadline for submitting a project design is due May 30th, 2013. Please use the back of this flyer to sketch out your design. Be sure to fill out the required contact information as well. So on the back of here is the name, and you draw the picture in here. I don't know, I'm sure no one can see these, but there's some pretty cool designs. One looks like a bicycle right here. And, oh, these are paper clips here for bicycles. And Baron, where can they get this form on the city's website? Okay, it's in the recreation, Parks and Rec building. So they should submit them to Kevin Dix, who is here with us tonight, and he will be accepting these at the Cottonwood Recreation Center. So I assume you can get the form there or online, and you drop them off at the rec center. So good luck, kids, on the contest. So Dr. Bob?
You want to do that?
So on behalf of the City Council, we would like to present this proclamation to our bicycle leaders here in Cottonwood. We have Dr. Bob Richards, Kevin Dix, and George Gaylord has been our staff member that has been in charge of a bicycle committee that has done so much work here in the Verde Valley and Cottonwood. So, did you want to share a little bit? And if you do, we need to get you by a microphone.
Did you wear yours?
No.
Oh.
Here, Dr. Bob.
Yes, on behalf of the Bicycle Advisory Committee, I want to really thank the City Council for the support that they've given to us over the last few years. Without the support of the City Council as well as the staff, we wouldn't be a bronze level bicycle-friendly community at this time. And there's a lot of work to do to continue that bronze level and hopefully move up to a silver. I also want to express thanks to George. He's been very supportive of the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and also Nikki Albiter, who has moved down to the Phoenix area and is working down there. They were both very, very supportive, and hopefully the new staff that will take over for them will be as supportive as they were. Thank you. I'm going to keep it. Can I keep it?
You want to keep it?
The next item is called to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action per ARS 38-431-02H. Comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. Is there anyone that wants to talk to the call to the public? Dr. Bob?
Hello again, Dr. Bob Richards, 1495 East Crestview Drive, Cottonwood, Arizona. Mayor Jones, members of the City Council staff, and the greater public. Camp Verde has finally come to the decision that they want to improve the roadway between Thousand Hills and Camp Verde. That's Highway 260. And ideally in the future will be in the 5-year plan for ADOT. And thankfully the City of Cottonwood has stepped up to the table to assist Camp Verde in getting that done. Out of the parameters of the 260 project, as I will call it, are the shoulders on the roadway between basically Cottonwood and Camp Verde. When the roadway was completed, the southbound lane was redone, the shoulders were hit and miss. And anybody, if you just drive down to Camp Verde and look at the shoulders on the right side, you'll see in what a horrible condition they are. It would be ideal to have that included in the project because it's an economic driver not only for Cottonwood but for Camp Verde. The Adventure Cycling Association has road maps all throughout the United States of preferred routes. There's one that goes from Zion, Bryce, to Grand Canyon, and it doesn't come down through Sedona and Cottonwood and Camp Verde. It goes over through Wickenburg down to Phoenix to tie up with the I-10 corridor between San Diego and St. Augustine, Florida. Also the MS Ride, last year, one of their routes was down to Camp Verde. This year, Camp Verde is not on their route. And I can only presume that it's because of the poor shoulders that are present on that section of the highway. So I'd really encourage Cottonwood to push for that to be part of the plan, the 260 plan, so that when that comes about, that the shoulders will be redone between Cottonwood and Camp Verde. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I totally agree with you.
Just ride a bike on the street for a while and we will too.
Yeah, yeah. Any other members want to speak to the call to the public? If not, we'll close the floor to the public. Next is the presentation, recognition of the Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission for being nominated for a Governor's Volunteer Service Award. And tonight, whoops, hang on just a second. Let me get over to my agenda. So I think between the city manager and I, we should be able to tag team on this and explain it. Do you want to go ahead and start, or do you want? I would be happy to if you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. We were very honored to be invited to attend Governor's Luncheon in honor of the Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission. Many of the members are here tonight with us, and they were nominated for a Governor's Volunteer Service Award. And they had so many projects that they have done, and hundreds and hundreds of hours that they have put in community service. And they were recognized by Governor Brewer for their accomplishments and for their volunteerism. Volunteerism is very important in every community. There are so many people who count on our volunteers. For instance, in the city of Cottonwood, as I understand it, just in our very own city, if we had to pay every volunteer, and this includes library boards and commissions, we have one lady in the police department who works 40 hours a week as a volunteer. We've had volunteers in the court. If we had to pay all of these people volunteering their time, as I understand the latest information, we would have to pay 9 full-time employees for that work. So volunteerism is alive and well in Cottonwood, and I'm very proud to say that our young people are right in there with the adults, serving and volunteering, and in this case, serving the youth of the community, although they've helped seniors too. So I would like to, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I think it's important for the community to know that not only did our youth commission get recognized, but also a member of Mat Force was recognized, and also a member of Yavapai County AmeriCorps was recognized as well. Out of 7 statewide awards, Yavapai County really cleaned up. But it was a nice event, and it was nice to see our youth recognized, and I think we should absolutely recognize Hezekiah Allen for his leadership, and Brittany Lawler for her leadership, and thank Hez in particular for submitting the group for this award.
That's great, and I guess Hezekiah is out of town at the moment, so he won't be here with us tonight, but he definitely has been a driving force in the success of the commission, and we do, as a council, we definitely appreciate him and his work, and Brittany too. So is there anything Brittany, that you or Spencer would like to add? I think you might be able to share a little bit more about some of the activities that you submitted.
Council members, Madam Mayor, thank you first and foremost for your unconditional support that you've given the Commission over the years that it's been established. The Commission's been able to serve, as you stated, in a greater capacity than just the youth. We are able to serve children in the community. We're able to serve needy families, senior citizens, a very wide spectrum of people, and all because of the unconditional support that you're able to provide for us. So just this year, we've collectively accounted for just about 1,000 hours of service throughout the community in our events and our block parties and teen nights and different things like that. So we really are proud of what we do, but we're also very grateful for the support that you give us. So.
Thanks. And Spencer, you have anything to add?
I would just like to say that it was a great opportunity to get that volunteerism award. I mean, we've been in drawing for 4 years, and I've been in the commission for 5 years, so it's just great to know that we were being recognized the whole time and that we're making a difference. And I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of all of the Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission members.
Great. So I'd like the council to come up and Spencer's going to accept the award, but I would like to really get all of the commissioners up here so that members of the public can see everyone. And if the council could come up too. I know it's going to be a crowd, but we can do it.
While everybody's coming up, I just wanted to throw in there that I'm very proud that I happen to have a kid on that commission, and I'm very fortunate that they're on there, and I appreciate them very much.
So unattach ourselves. This is heavy. So tell people to the back.
And one of them, that's Cooch's kid.
The vice mayor right in front.
No, the girl right here in the middle of the dark shirt.
Spencer.
Very impressive.
Spencer's been going to accept this, but the vice mayor will give them this beautiful vase that they received from the governor. So members of the public on television and here in our neighbors come see that beautiful vase that they got. So I assume that, sorry about that, I assume it will be placed in the rec center. We have a place in the rec center for these kinds of trophies. I'm not sure, is that true, Doug?
Yes.
Okay. And then we would also like to present this award that the governor gave to the Youth Advisory Commission. So it's a certificate that can be framed, and that can go along with the base. Maybe we'll explain it. Or you might want to frame it and put it into your where you meet. It's up to you. Okay. So thank you all so much for all that you do for our community. The next item is approval of the minutes, special and regular meetings of April 16th, 2013, special work session March 28th, 2013, work session April 9th, 2013, and special meetings of April 29th, 30th, 2013. Any discussion on this item, council?
I read them all and it looked good to me.
All right. So I would entertain a motion, Mr. Dowling.
I'll make I move to approve the minutes of the special and regular meetings of April 16th, 2013, special work session March 28th, 2013, work session April 9th, 2013, special meetings of April 29th and 30th, 2013.
Second.
All right, Mr. Dowling made the motion and the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Comments regarding items listed on the agenda are limited to a 5-minute time period per speaker. Under old business, we have none. The consent agenda. Item number 1, special event liquor license application submitted by Richard T. Williams on behalf of the Golden Cobra Center of Fitness Incorporated for a fundraiser scheduled for May 18th, 2013. Item number 2 is a new liquor license application submitted by Ty D. Stewart, if I said that correctly, for the Brass Tack Restaurant located at 1075 Highway 260. Item number 3, award of job order contract for the construction of the Quail Canyon Waterline Project. Item number 4, resolution number 2696, approving an amendment to job JPA number 7040 with the Arizona Department of Transportation concerning responsibility for the maintenance and operation of certain street lights. Are there any items that the council would like to remove for discussion? I'm thinking about pulling item number 3, and I think I would just for the public's information, I would like to talk about that item.
Okay.
Just what the city's doing and how it's benefiting some members of our water customers. So I'll pull item number 3, and I would entertain a motion for items 1, 2, and 4.
I move to approve items 1, 2, and 4 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And I just, on this, I think it's important for the public and especially our water customers to understand exactly what the city is doing to benefit them. And so, Roger, are you here tonight to explain that?
And Madam Mayor, before
Yes.
he does that, can Matt read the resolution?
Did I skip one?
No, it was part of the consent.
Oh, sorry about that. Before you start, hang on. Will you please read resolution number 2696 by title only?
Resolution number 2696, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving an amendment to JPA number 07-040 with the Arizona Department of Transportation concerning responsibility for the maintenance and operation of certain streetlights. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. We appreciate that. So, Mr. Biggs?
Madam Mayor, Council, before I start, I'd like to bring up Mike Trainer. Mike Trainer is the Operations and Maintenance Manager for the Utility Department, and a handy guy to have around when you need something off the top shelf.
Okay.
Can you go home with me? And get rid of my ladders.
So this is the dynamic duo from the Utility Department.
Exactly.
Okay.
Jeff, or however you describe us. The Quail Canyon water line is actually a 2,700-foot transmission line that would feed water from the Quail Canyon water system directly into Verde Village 6 and 7 distribution system. There's no reservoirs involved. It uses a variable speed pump that would reflect the system pressure. System pressure drops, pump speeds up. System pressure rises, the pump slows down. It's a very clean and elegant and simple system. And what it's designed to do is to bolster some weakness that we feel we have in that part of the system. Well 6-2, which serves Verde Village 6, is starting to show its signs of age. And that would leave us well 7-1 to serve a very large area if well 6-2 went down. This water line acts to support peak demands. We've got some hot weather coming. It usually really increases our demand in that area. And another great thing about this project is that the Quail Canyon well has very low levels of arsenic. It requires no treatment. So we can pump it directly into the system. The site has its own generator. We can continue to pump water even if there's no APS power. So this is a pretty good project, we feel. Mr. Trainer?
Our reservoir capacity in those two sites, 6.2 and 7.2, are minimal. And with our extended use through the summertime, it really taxes the system. It actually brings us into being critically low, even with our water restrictions. So with the Quail Canyon water line, what it'll do is it'll supplement. It'll actually push water up into this section and help these two sections very, very well. It actually has the capacity to even pump even further if necessary. So we find it to be a very key area. It's a really nice resource that we have that we can't use because it is in the outlying areas. Like Roger said, we don't have to treat for arsenic. It's a great producing well. And we're not using it because on the Quail Run area, there's been no development. Subdivisions have all fallen apart. So we really want to tap that resource and utilize it and put it into a system that's older and just help everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think it is important for citizens in the Verde Village to understand that the City Council is very concerned about their water supplies. We're willing to take funding and ensure that they do have an adequate supply of water. I think that's a very important message of support for those members of our community. So, any questions, Council? Any comments from the public? So the bids that came in, there were 3 bids. So we had Tiffany at $159,993.55, KCS at $183,630.79, and ANE at $239,355. So what we're talking is to award the contract for the water line to Tiffany Construction. So, any comments from members of the public? If not, yes?
Tiffany is.
Tiffany is. I don't know about the others. Are those local contractors?
Yes.
All three are right.
Mhm. And needless to say, the council is always thrilled when local contractors submit bids. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to award the contract to construct the Quail Canyon water line to Tiffany Construction in the amount of $159,993.55.
I'll second it. Mr. Elinsky made the motion, the mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a municipal property corporation appointment. Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor and Council, we're looking for approval of Resolution 2698, reappointing Jake Gonzalez to the Municipal Property Corporation. We went out and solicited members, and Jake was the only one who submitted. Jake's been with us before Eve, obviously. We're reappointing him. He's very well aware of what the MPC is all about. They haven't used heavily. The last time we used them heavily was back when we acquired the water system back in 2004 and 2006. Shortly after that was when Jay came on board. We are asking that he be appointed to finish out a 3-year term. His term ended in January. I'm not sure why we did that. However, all these members are supposed to serve till September of every year. So we're asking that the council approve that Jake go ahead and approve, finish out a 3-year term. His cycle should actually end on September 1st, 2015. Later on this year, we have another member whose term will be expiring and will be coming in for a 2016 term and extend, so we have staggered terms between the 3 members that we have. He has also been made aware, as the rest of the members have been made aware, that of their duties when it comes to any type of financing projects for the city of Cottonwood. And they're willing to spend a time when it comes to financing programs through MPC. It becomes very intense and time consuming, and he's also aware of the time consumption that might be available, that might be necessary if we do any type of financing programs for the city of Cottonwood. With that being said, I did ask Mr. Gonzalez to join us today, and he's here if you'd like to go ahead and introduce him. For those of you who may not know who he is, he's actually extremely involved in our city organization and a lot of other committees. He's one of our little volunteers that has no problem spending time with the city and its staff.
So, Mr. Gonzalez, welcome. So Jake, yes, I've known you for a while. You've served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for quite some time, and how many other commissions and boards? It seems like more than that.
Senior
Center, Senior Commission, yeah, MPC, so you're quite involved in the community. Is there anything that you'd like to share about yourself or members of the public or your service on the MPC board?
No, but I would like to brag a little bit about representing the city on the advisory council on aging, to the it's an NACOG organization. I happen to be a second-year chairman of that group. Next year is my last year. So that'll be over.
Yeah, and I think former council member Dwayne Kirby
was,
and you were working closely with NACOG, and so you're carrying out his wishes, I'm sure. He had a lot of faith in you and your abilities, and I'm happy that you continue to serve.
Thank you.
Okay, so any comments from or discussion from the council? Any comments from members of the public? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution numbers 2698, reappointing Jake Gonzalez as a member of the city's Municipal Property Corporation Board to serve for the remainder of a 3-year term ending September 1st, 2015.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Norman made the motion, the Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we sure appreciate you. Thank you very much for your commitment to the city.
Thank you for your confidence.
You're welcome. Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number 2698 by title only.
Resolution number 2698, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Jake Gonzalez, a member of the city's Municipal Property Corporation. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is presentation by Pat Walker Consulting, LLC, regarding impact fees. Mr. Rodriguez.
Mayor, Council, we're bringing this to your attention. We're running a little bit late on this particular project. We have some deadlines we have to meet, so we're pushing this item. As you know, development fees, or impact fees as they're also called, have been a big issue with the legislature over the years. It seems every year, with maybe exception of this year, they've been changing the rules on us and our reporting requirements to the point where they've gotten a little bit cumbersome for us to handle. And so we're just trying to decide how we want to go ahead and manage these particular fees. So we needed someone that had some real intimate knowledge on how to develop them, how to put together an IPP, which is an Infrastructure Improvement Program. Okay, got that one. And having known Pat Walker from a few years back, it was nice to finally meet her after so many years of hearing her name. And she actually is an expert in impact fees. The reason I'm kind of want to mention that we are running a little bit late on this is this is something we should have started working on nearly about a year ago. And we've kind of put it off. We've been hee-hawing around trying to figure out how we want to deal with this properly. And it wasn't until Steve Horton gave me a call and said, Rudy, you've got to do something. It's time. Because we were delaying a little bit too long. Pat Walker can probably give you a little bit more information on what kind of issues we're going to run into during the process. But first and foremost, I wanted her to bring to you some of the stuff that she's been discussing with us over the last few weeks and months that we've been on and off talking about how to deal with these particular projects. Again, she's worked for municipalities before, I think the city of Chandler, is that correct? And she has a lot of experience in impact fees. There's just a handful of people that actually do this type of work. And for the most part, they are already booked up solid. And Pat has done us a favor. She's done a lot of work for us already, free of charge. And she is here to explain how far we've come and maybe some of the issues that we're going to be facing into the future. And we just wanted council to be aware of the kind of issues that we're going to be facing, the staff trying to go ahead and move forward with impact fees. So without any further delay, I'll have Pat come over and introduce herself.
So I have a question, Rudy. Is this the council's strategic initiative of cost and benefits of growth study? Is that what this is?
This is probably a portion of that.
Okay.
Okay. There's probably a lot more to it that the mayor's probably going to want to consider as the impact fees alone. But this one concerns us because of the legislation changes over the last few years.
Okay, so this isn't just it. This isn't going to be
the topic we've had on the budget before about
right.
$150,000 for a project like that. That's above and beyond this right now.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. So we would welcome you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, members of the audience. As Rudy said, a little bit of my background. I was the CFO for the City of Chandler. I was there for 23 years, and then I went into consulting, and I've been consulting. I was with an international firm for about 6 years and then went out on my own about a year ago and for my own consulting. I do impact fees for municipalities throughout Arizona still. I did, like I say, a lot of national work prior to forming my own consulting. But I decided I wanted to stay in Arizona. I love working with cities. Even when I was with the international consulting firm, we only consulted to municipalities and private utilities. So I've got government in my blood, and I want to continue that. Again, like Rudy said, we have been discussing this for a few months. And the reason is that the bottom line is that, and probably why Stephen gave a call to Rudy, is that if you don't do a study and go under the new guidelines of it's Arizona 946305, which was a result of Senate Bill 1525. If you don't do a new study and have new fees adopted by August 1st of 2014, you no longer can collect the impact fees. And so it's really imperative that you do a study so that you can support the fees according to the new law. So this evening, what I'm going to try to do is just give you a glimpse of it. It's really a lot to try to do in a short period of time. It's a very complex law, unfortunately. And what it is that there's a lot of things that have happened over the years. And as a consultant, I've seen both sides. I see the development community side. I see the government side where, you know, how much can you charge for growth? How much can you put on the backs of growth or development? And so there's a balance, and the law is a result of that, and there's a lot of tightening. And now on the other side, it might be going a little bit too far, but it is what it is now and what we have to face as we move forward. So what I want to do is give an introduction and overview, as we did, talk about the impact fees, methodologies, because the one thing that's not governed by the law is the methodology you use, and that's what fee consultants do. Talk about the Senate Bill 1525 and the Arizona Revised Statute, the timelines, and then next steps discussion. So from a simplistic version, what is a development fee? It's a one-time charge, and one time is important because you don't get it every year. You can't do something with it that's an ongoing cost. It's to be used for infrastructure facilities associated with new development. In other words, you charge the fee because you have growth. If you don't have any growth, you don't need an impact fee. So what are the costs that can be funded by development fees? Well, there are some things that are just a big no, you can't, and there's things that yes. The yes is excess capacity of existing facilities. You can recoup those costs. If you built more water or wastewater capacity than what you had needed to serve the existing population, and you got excess capacity, if you've got debt, you can definitely pay the debt with that impact fee or development fee. If you don't have any debt, but you have excess capacity, the new law requires that you have to be able to spend it within 15 years on something that's a result of new development. So it's a little bit catchy. It's a little bit different than what it used to be, and we'll get it more into that. One of the things you can't do is use the money for existing improvement for deficiencies. If you have things that aren't meeting up to the service levels that you require or the standards, you can't put it on the back of growth if it's serving existing customers. You can't use it for maintenance and repairs, but you can to serve new development, and that's what the city currently has. Is that you've got a combination of connection fees and impact fees, but it was based on a 2006 study that you did, or 2007, 2006, 2007. So there's methodologies that you use in impact fee calculations, and as I mentioned, the law doesn't say you have to use a buy-in, incremental, and hybrid approach when you calculate the fees. It gives you guidelines on what you can include and the type of projects you can include and the time periods, publications, and that sort of thing. But it doesn't say you have to look at, you can only include projects in the future. And so every community is different. Some communities build excess capacity and they have a buy-in methodology, and because they want to have that paid back through the development fees. It might be incremental, forward-looking, or it could be what they call a hybrid, where you're looking backward for excess capacity, but looking forward for new development. So these are methodologies that are used. As I mentioned, there's no single right answer. Every community is different and should be looked at individually. There's pros and cons to each method, and as a fee study, you look at what those pros and cons are, and you calculate it and say, what makes the most sense for our community? This is an overall planning process, and this gets to what Rudy was talking about, that you should have started maybe a year ago when you're looking at capital projects. The law's changed dramatically as far as justification, the information you have to provide, and what they call the infrastructure improvement plan. It used to be synonymous with the CIP, but you can have a CIP separate from an IIP. But the bottom line is that it's projecting out what you're going to do as far as capital projects and facilities into the future to serve growth. It also talks about what you're doing in improvements for existing too now. So it's a combination of things. But usually these are the steps that are involved in a capital planning process, where you look at master plans, where you identify, you evaluate, prioritize the projects. Then you develop your IIP. Then you can calculate your fees and project revenues, financing, decide what you're going to do as far as impact fees. Unfortunately, it takes time, and that's because you're serving a longer period of time on capacity. You don't get all the money in at once, so that's why you normally have to do financing to build or construct the projects along the way. So what the city has right now is a water and wastewater system development impact fee. They're synonymous. You can use development impact fees, the terminology. Like I say, the study was completed in 2007, and guess what was going on in 2006, 2007? A lot of good growth and a lot of rosy projections. Unfortunately, a lot of things have changed since 2006, 2007. There was 42.8 million that was identified for growth-related water and sewer projects. And 52 million was the total overall for growth and non-growth, and 42.8 was for growth. So you can see it was a pretty aggressive capital improvement program, thinking that growth was going to come over the next 5 years. So this is the way your fee schedule is set up right now, and this is common, this is easy to administer as far as based on meter size, because there's something called equivalent residential units, equivalent demand units, how much gallons per day you need to serve a residential unit, and it goes up from there based on meter size. So the majority of your meters for residential is in the 5/8 to 3/4 inch range. You do have residential that have 1 inch, but when you start to get into the bigger meters, you're usually getting into either multifamily or industrial, commercial, and that sort of thing. And this is what the fee schedule is. So you can see that the bigger the meter size, the more gallons per day it provides. Therefore, it's going to be a higher cost to put those in, and that's not unusual. You also have something called a per gallon fee, which is a little bit different than what I've seen, where this is on the wastewater side, where you're charging this for non-residential. For residential, you charge, it's a connection fee. You charge $1,500 for a connection fee for the water side in addition to your impact fee. And on your wastewater side, you charge 1386 for non-residential based on the type of development that it is. For residential, it's like $150 connection fee. And of course, there's a meter charge and, you know, a deposit and that sort of thing whenever anybody builds a new home or a new business or something like that. So why are you even looking at development fees or impact fees? Because growth's so down. Well, like I say, if you don't collect them up front, when it comes time to build something, when growth does get here, you're behind the curve. You haven't collected them. In addition to that, you do have some outstanding debt. You have a 2004 MPC debt of $16.2 million, which is composed of $11 million for principal and $5.2 million for interest. You also have, this is what's left on the debt. You also have the 2006 debt, which is the 2175, sorry, it should have been a bigger number up there, and the 14.9 in interest and 21.75 in principal. So you can see you have a lot of outstanding debt. And this was to acquire water systems, which would provide excess capacity. You can't pay all of the debt from impact fees, but there is a portion of growth related that right now you're paying that out of your water and sewer user fees. You're not paying for it from impact fees. So let's talk a little bit about the specifics of it. One of the things that we talked about when we were talking to the city earlier was this is not a very well-written law, and everybody will admit that it isn't. It's untested, it's unproven, it's got a lot of gray areas. It was kind of a cut and paste from New Mexico and Texas and a little bit of everything, and it went in at the last minute. So there is challenges with it, and that's why with every community you kind of have to look at how are you going to interpret it. Stephen would be my new best friend because we would have to talk about the legal ramifications of it, and every town has to weigh that out, you know, and how far to push the envelope on the interpretation of the law.
Just if I can interject, the league's model ordinance runs 43 pages. So we would be adopting shortly after you gave direction a 43-page give or take ordinance.
Yes. That's the 43 pages, as your city attorney said, is a result of the fact that, and I was on the model, I'm not proud of the fact that we ended up with 40-some pages, but I was asked to sit on the committee by the Arizona League of Cities and Towns to help draft it. And the reason that it was drafted was because the attorneys that were involved in the legislation said, well, we were at the table. We know what was meant by this. Well, the law doesn't say this. So the model ordinance was created by a panel of people to say, okay, let's define it further. And so and a perfect example is the library. The way it reads in the law, you'd say you can only fund up to 10,000, I mean, a 10,000 square foot library, period. And the reality is that it meant the first 10,000 square feet. So there was clarification in the model ordinance to say, well, if you've got a 20,000 square foot library, you can fund the first 10,000 of a new, you just can't fund anything over that. But if you strictly read the law, the interpretation, and I think there's things like that throughout it. So. There's also some categories, you don't have to worry about it, that as of January 1st you can't. They really didn't touch water and wastewater. Again, I think people pretty well understand why you need water and wastewater, and you have to provide that. But there's parks, and there's police, and there's fire, and there was general government impact fee. That one went away January of 2012. You can no longer charge a general government impact fee. There's restrictions on parks and amenities in parks. You no longer can pay for a helicopter for police and fire out of impact fees. And like I said, anytime there's something mentioned in the law, it's probably because somebody did it somewhere along the way. Water, sewer, and streets, pretty much. Streets kind of expanded a little bit to talk about roads. I mean, it used to be arterial streets, and now it's kind of a little bit broader definition on streets. So there is new timelines for adoption, and boy, it does take you 12 to 15 months, not simply because of all the other things on the capital planning process, but just simply because of the requirements of having to release the infrastructure improvement plan 60 days before the public hearing, and then there's another 60 days because you have to give a 30-day notice on, you have to approve or disapprove the infrastructure improvement plan. You have to do land use assumptions during that time frame. You then have to have a public hearing on the fees, on the calculation of the fee. Then you have to wait, then you have to approve it again. So this timeline of these publication notices and everything, the bottom line is if you don't adopt your new fees, I think it's by May 18th, you can't be effective by August 1st. So back up to that, and if you're not out there with your IIP this fall, you're in trouble of getting it done. And I think that you guys are pushing up against that, and we can talk a little bit about that more towards the end. And there's restrictions on construction sales tax. Where that would affect you is if you have a tax rate, let's say of 2% of sales tax rate, and that you have a construction sales tax of 3%, that differential is maybe over, that 1% is over what the average is, and you have to offset some of your projects. So it may be with streets or something like that. It won't affect your utilities, though. Again, you have to forecast. Some of these things aren't new. These are things that you've always done in studies. They just made it official in the law, where you forecast growth-related revenues to offset cost of infrastructure and facilities. And what they mean by that is that there's property taxes that come in as a result of growth. There's sales tax that come in. They want to see where all that money's going. And it may not go towards, you know, the growth-related capital projects, but boy, a lot of that money comes in and does have to go towards supporting the operation and maintenance of those projects. But they want to see that calculation in the study moving forward. You have to look by service unit and service area requirements. And there's still a debate about that whole service area requirement. What does that mean? Well, you know, with water and wastewater, you know, usually everything interconnects, and you can say it's a city-wide fee, and that's your service area's entire city. But if you put in a well in one area to only serve that area, it's not connected to anything else, you might define that as a service area, and that's what the fee will be for one service area. And you might have a different fee for this service area, you might have a different one for this one. But there's a lot of debate about how you define a service area and, you know, how many you're going to have in your community. But it's really looking to get to the point of who is benefiting from that project. Who is paying for that? And because there's been a lot of discussion in cities and towns that, well, wait a minute, I'm paying for something way up here and I'm building down here. Why am I paying the same fee? Because it's more expensive to build up here. That's what prompted this in there. There's always been a need to demonstrate what they call substantial nexus between what the service is and demands of new growth. You can't just arbitrarily decide you're going to put a project in. You really the demands. What are your service levels? If you're running out of water, you don't have capacity, you have to be able to demonstrate that. Need to build that infrastructure or facility. They added in that a project must have 3 or more year life expectancy. Obviously, some projects must have had less than that in the past. Must be owned and operated on behalf of the municipality. And financing costs are allowed for growth-related projects, and that's not new. You had it in your last study where you had financing costs included in your water and your wastewater impact fee. As I mentioned, there's key changes. As far as the infrastructure improvement plan and land use, it must conform with your general plan. I see that you've got some discussion about your general plan, and it just can't be way off from what your general plan is. If you're saying that the growth is going to go here and this is what you're looking at, it can't say the opposite in the general plan. It must conform to the land uses. It has to be updated every 5 years. And if you're going to have any major changes, and I'll tell you, most communities have major changes. If you're in the growth mode, you're probably going to have major changes. And then they say you have to have qualified professionals. And believe it or not, consultants didn't write this law, but it's basically saying you have to have a fee consultant. You have to have people that are licensed, like you have an engineer that's licensed in Arizona to do the cost estimates. You should have that. And, you know, again, the gray area of the law says, well, do they actually have to be the ones to sign off on it? But you have to have proof of how you got to your cost estimates for any project. No more of this, well, we think it's going to cost this, and so we're going to put so much, you know, per, you know, square foot or whatever. You have to really have justification for your cost estimates. For non-utility, all those other areas, streets, water, sewer, any project that you say you're going to do within a 10-year period, and it's 15 years for water and sewer, the law says now you must spend the funds. Or you may be in the position you have to refund it back if you're requested, plus interest by, you know, the property owner that, you know, comes in and wants their refund back. If you don't provide service. Again, this is a gray area, but, you know, if you don't plan on spending it in 10 years for non-utility or 15 years, you probably should really think about whether or not you want to put it in for impact fees. That's why a lot of communities are kind of like, as they move forward with this new law, they're looking at maybe a 5-year window, you know, versus a longer time frame than what they used to. But that's because communities, again, pushed out capital projects. The economy got bad, push, yet kept collecting development fees, but the services weren't provided maybe in some areas. So that's why it's where it is. One of the other things as a key provision is that you must either appoint an advisory committee or do a biennial audit. Again, an advisory committee means a formal advisory committee, which I've heard of no community going that route as a formal advisory committee, simply because they'd rather go with what they call an ad hoc advisory committee and biennial audit. Because an advisory committee, you have to have, the postings, the minutes, the reviews, all those things. Or if you have an ad hoc, you can invite everybody, the stakeholders, you make sure you include them. And by the way, I always want to include the stakeholders because you don't want any surprises at the end. You want to know what the development community is thinking. You want to hear them before you finish the study, and you want to involve them in the process. But the audit portion of it, if you have to choose one or the other, the audit also makes sure that you've done it right. So every 2 years, you have to have an audit from the time you adopt your fees to say whether or not you spent them the way you said you were according to your IIP, and your land use assumptions are correct, and the expenditures were spent on the project you said they were. It's a test that has to be done. And again, this is if you had the advisory, but what I'm seeing, and again, I'm working with a lot of communities, and I talked to Andrew McGuire, who was the attorney, and I don't know of anybody that's going strictly with the advisory committee. They're going ad hoc advisory and biennial audit. By the way, the only good part of all of this is that consultant fees and the biennial audit can all be paid for by impact fees. So that's the only good side of it. But it goes into the fee calculations. Again, we're talking about the audit. It's an annual report. It's in addition to the annual report. You're required right now to do an annual report in September, and you have it on your website. You've done it. But they've now put even a little bit more detail that's going to be in those annual reports, but on top of it, these are the things that are required by, for an audit. It doesn't have to be done by a CPA firm. I do know that because we checked on that with the Auditor General standards on the audit requirements, and it's not that. This is what they call it an audit, but you have to look at the collection expenditures of each project. There's no opinion that's off on it. It's just doing a review of all these things that are required according to the law. You can reserve capacity within your study. If you have a development and you need to reserve capacity, you can do it, but you have to identify it within your infrastructure improvement plan. Something that's new is that you must assess it to all customer classifications. Didn't matter before for the city because you had water and sewer. But if you have like a park fee, historically communities would not assess that for commercial or industrial because it was residential or multifamily that used the parks. Now you must have a fee assigned to the commercial and industrial, no matter what. Every fee category has to have commercial and industrial. And then again, as I mentioned, the time frames. They really define necessary public service, and that's when I was talking about when they say a necessary public service are things that are allowable to collect the impact fees. And what they don't allow anymore is libraries over 10,000 square feet, helicopters, police, that sort of thing, or general government fees. This is kind of an example what Stephen was talking about where, we took what the law said and then we expanded it in a definition of the ordinance. In water, it really didn't change. I mean, you could always buy it for these things, development, acquisition, supply, transportation, treatment, all these things that you would use in the water system still do. Same with sewer, didn't really change for that. As I mentioned, some of the important dates is like the 60 days before public hearings and approval or disapproval. And it's when you line it all out, there's overlaps depending on the timing of when you do public hearings. Like it's max of 60 days, but you could do it in 30 days. And it's really depending on how fast you're going through. But what really is the most important thing is once you release your IIP and your land use assumption, the clock starts ticking. It used to be, well, maybe we won't make a decision. No, you have to either approve or disapprove that IIP development. Then your clock starts ticking for your public hearing on your fees. And you either have to approve or disapprove. It used to be you could delay or whatever, but you have to make a decision within a time frame. And then, as I mentioned, 75 days after your formal adoption, it must be published on a municipal website. And then, as I said, annual reports due 90 days at the end of fiscal year, which isn't new. That's a September report. So here's what happens in an impact fee study. Now, I'm not talking about the capital financing chart. That's all, kind of comes into play even before this, but you have to decide whether you're going to have an advisory committee or biennial audit. You still want to determine a public outreach strategy because you do want to reach out to the stakeholders in the community. You develop your infrastructure improvement plan, land use assumptions. You determine what's the best methodology that we should use, that buy-in, hybrid, incremental, prepare cash flow, calculate fees, cash flow analysis. Why is that important? Because you want to project how much you think you're going to take in the next 5, 10 years, whatever, on a cash flow because of the financing cost associated with it. You want to prepare a report and then meet all the publication requirements. So whether to do a study or not, you know, this is, I think, what staff is going to be looking for council guidance on, whether or not to do this. Do you have existing debt? Because these are some of the questions you have to ask as you move forward. Yes, you do. You have a lot of existing debt that maybe can be paid for partially by growth. You collect hookup fees, but they're very minimal. But you do have excess capacity, from what I understand. Again, you have to look at the flows, what your capacity and projections are. I can tell you that in your prior study, you had a wastewater treatment plant of about $19 million in a lot of associated costs. In your water side, your main costs were in the water treatment and water distribution. Arsenic, there was a growth-related portion of that, and distribution lines and that sort of thing. So there could be additional projects and potential growth that you still need to do based on what I saw. Even though the growth's gone down, you're still having some growth, but you have to do projections on what you think it's going to be for the future. In addition to that, if you know of any developments that are going to be coming in, a lot of times developments want to have the impact fees in place because if they put out the infrastructure, they want to credit back, you know, over time. So that's another reason that you might want to do it. But if you have development fees and you've got some costs that you need to provide for growth, if you've got debt for growth, that's all the things and the reasons why you want to look at keeping your structure and things for consideration. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council would have.
Mr. Linsky, do you want to catch the lights? Thanks.
How much of the debt are we allowed to pay through the use of impact fees?
We would have to calculate, Mayor,
Yes.
Council Member, we would have to calculate that based on the amount of capacity, existing capacity, and what you're projecting for the future. And then it would be a percentage of existing versus new growth. So that would be part of the study we'd have to do. We can't tell you right off the bat until we start looking at the population numbers, the flows, and all that.
But it's based off a percentage?
Yes.
Okay. But we don't know that percentage?
Not at this time,
okay.
no.
I just want to say thank you, Arizona State, for less government.
And one, just to dovetail with that, we've had some ongoing discussions about, you know, one big potential future growth area of the city is Bay of Montana. I think the wastewater treatment over there is going to be treated independently of our current wastewater treatment plant because of the distance to the current plant. So that would, you know, so the debt attached to the current plant would not be able to be, you know, there has to be some provision made for treatment over there independently.
So it would be only for new facilities for that development, if it's not connected to our current facilities or any place in the city. Mr. Dowling, you have
I'm just
a question mark.
I'm just taking it all in.
So what, may I ask another
Yes,
question?
please.
What's the likelihood that we'll have this done? It's not so much a question for you, but we'll have it done before August? August is our deadline?
August of 2014 is when the fees,
But we have to start by May 18th?
This is a fire drill.
Yeah.
We have to start by May 18th, and we don't have another meeting even before then, so.
Well, it's May of 2014.
Oh, 14, not
But
this
there
May.
may
I
be-
was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, not this May, but there may be, you know, it may not be accomplished by August, but it could, that doesn't mean you can't raise the fees, put them back into place as of September. Is that the best alternative? Absolutely not. You take away a fee and you put it back. That's not the best alternative. But there may be a way, and one thing that we do is the very first meeting, we kind of try to examine what is maybe, in your case, where, you know, it would take a lot to get a CIP and things together and the cost estimates, what are some of the things that we could quickly get to do any type of fee calculation and keep the fee to really support what information you have, and then look at doing a full-blown update maybe, you know, down the road. I don't know, because without getting in and doing a study, it's kind of like, you know, we've looked at the numbers, I've looked at a lot of maps, I've looked at your capacity, I've looked at your prior study, but, you know, when you got some debt, I think that there's a chance some of it can be applied towards that. But you also might have some growth-related projects, and I I know even bouncing around with staff, there were some things that rose to the surface. The question is, how quickly can you get solid cost estimates on that, and how sure do you feel about spending that money in the next 15 years? That's the key.
So, Mr. Alinsky?
You mentioned getting the stakeholders involved, and I'm just curious, who, in your recommendation, who would you contact to, to give us some input on this?
You have a home builders association for your county, and if you have developers within the community, you post it, and then you reach out and you make sure that they are aware of the meetings and the times, and encourage their participation in it. That's who I've normally seen. Not everybody belongs to a home builder association, multifamily, or partnership for commercial, but again, depending on where you are, in the state, like in the Valley, East Valley Partnership, and there is the Home Builders Association, and then there's the Yavapai County Association, Coconina County. I don't know if they, it depends on the area on where they have the membership and the strength. But there's some builders that do not belong, and they like to be represented on their own at these meetings. So you really open it up to people that are looking and developing in your community, and make sure the word gets out that these meetings are occurring.
Okay. That's the reason I ask, really, because I think it's a much different perspective from some of the small-scale builders that we have in the area versus some of the larger developers that will be doing, many acres of property. Because I think, a larger builder like Stardust, whatever, I think would be happy to have a development fee in place, whereas a smaller builder, no way.
Justin?
I guess go ahead.
Madam Mayor, if I could ask Pat maybe to let us know how other communities our size or a little bit larger are responding to the legislation, what they're doing. Are they adopting to the new statute? Are they going in a different direction to have development cover its costs?
Mayor and members of the council, I only know, in the last time I checked, of one community that said we're not doing the impact fees. We're just totally going to just not do them. There may be two now, but the most of them are doing them. They just may get rid of some of the fee categories. That's why the first meeting is the most important, because we may start out, a lot of communities, we want to do them all again, we want to update them all. But when we have that meeting, we start paring down. It's like, no, we really don't need to build, we've got a fire fee, but no, we're not going to build a fire station until, 20 years out. Well, you can't be collecting that fee. You have to spend it. So most communities are adopting them. They're just maybe narrowing them down, and they're saying, this is all we want to do. Most of them, everybody that's had water and sewer fees, I don't know of anybody that's gotten rid of the water and sewer side. But it's mainly those other fee areas that people have said, you know what, it's not worth it. It's
Right, I've noticed that Camp Verde and maybe even Clarkdale, I'm not sure, but I know Camp Verde for sure just got rid of theirs from what I read. But they weren't water and wastewater because they don't have water and wastewater. They were for parks and other such things.
Yes.
So if you got rid of your water and wastewater fees and somebody wanted to build a big development, it would almost, I think, hurt them in a way, because the city would just say, sorry, you fix it, you put it in, we're not doing it. I mean, how would that impact the development community if you didn't have that set aside for the impacts?
They would
you
have
could
to
do
do
development agreements too.
Right.
Pardon?
You can do development agreements, and that hasn't gone away, and you can work out development agreements and proceed that way. It's a matter of risk on who you want to take the risk of the development. And if the city puts forward the cost and financing, and the development doesn't occur, you still have a debt service payment probably to be paid from your water and sewer rates and that becomes, everybody's burden then. And if the developer does it, yeah, they'll probably want to get their money back as much as they can on the infrastructure. So, there's ways to do it. It doesn't totally take away from their ability to be able to go forward. It's just, again, it gets back to who wants to take the risk up front.
Okay.
You're good.
Mr. Alinsky?
Another risk I think that we would potentially take if we had the developer put in the infrastructure is they would ask the city to sign off on that. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to move forward with having development impact fees in the beginning was so we could be in control of putting that infrastructure in place, so that we were comfortable owning that, essentially. I mean, not that a developer would do a lousy job, but the risk is greater for a developer to do kind of a lousy job, get it done as cheaply as possible, than have the city sign off on it. We're left with infrastructure that's substandard.
And we have some areas in the community that are private, and it's really hard to, right in the middle of town, Crestview is one, and it's really hard to explain to those people that the developer got to put in private wastewater systems and roads and streets, and I'm sorry, but the city's not responsible for those streets, and please don't come to us to talk about that, So in 20 years, when that little tiny development's not able to afford putting in a new street, then, it just, to me, it creates huge problems. And I don't like that.
I'll jump in with a question. What if? What are the chances or likelihood that something's going to change at the legislature while we're doing this? I mean, they slip another bill in halfway through the year, we get to the end, we do the whole procedure, and then it's upended on us.
Mayor, council member, what they agreed to was not to do anything with the law for a couple years if cities would move forward and do this, the model city ordinance, and that's the whole purpose behind it. The reason that the model city ordinance was formed was try to do some consistency between communities so there's no more legislation done to this. And there's never any guarantees at the legislation, but they did agree to a 2-year window. And if cities and towns are adopting the model ordinance, it's going to be a harder battle to say, well, they're all doing it different. Right now, they could point to, and maybe there was or wasn't. You'd hear about somebody doing something with the impact fees, and not even examples had to be, but if you're adopting the model ordinance and you're following it, it's going to be a harder battle to change the law on that. I can't see it getting a lot looser, and I don't know how much tighter it can get.
The political horse trading through the league suggests, part of what the league and the municipalities got was some promise of some certainty for a period of years because of this enormous change and complicated change. It's going to be very difficult to implement.
And I do know there were some communities that had when you added up all their impact fees, if I recall just in my reading, it would be get up to about $26,000 per house, so it was, I guess, difficult for different builders and such and homeowners trying to pay for that. So
well, yeah, for a time, development was a cash cow, so to speak, but not now. I know there's a real popular thing right now. They're not real popular, but I hear a lot of statements of get rid of the fees so growth will come back. Get rid of the fees so growth will come back, but that doesn't usually take into account covering the growth. So that's a difficult thing. That's a difficult concept to try and get across at times, but that's where we have to reach out to the community and get our fingers into it and really let everybody know that we have to do this, or not, but I think we probably should.
That's the law. So what you want us to do tonight is just, there's no suggested motion or requested action, but we must act soon, obviously. And so what is it that you would like from the council?
This is more of informational for the council, just so that you understand that. We're kind of down to the wire. We've got to do something with it, and I think in the discussions, even as recent as this afternoon, we were going to come back to council to probably go ahead and begin the study itself and try to fast track it. We had been contemplating the idea of just doing away with them, but at this point in time, with the kind of information we do and don't have, I think our best bet is to go ahead and move forward with the study, let it follow its course, try to put something together, and during the course of putting the study together, maybe the decision will come: yes, we're doing it because we want to keep them, or we're doing it because we need to go ahead and get rid of them. I don't think we have enough information at this point in time to do away with them, to make a decision to do away with them, or make a decision to keep them. So This is just informational, and what we're going to probably do here in the near future is come back to council with some sort of an agreement to go ahead and move forward with an impact fee study along with everything it entails, and come up with some sort of cost estimate for that particular study. We're just kind of giving you a heads up on where we're heading with this.
Okay. And as far as budgeting for it, did we include that in our budget? Or we'll have time to include it for July 2013, 14?
We will probably have to start moving on it before July 1st, obviously. We do have the budget capacity. Every year I make sure we have the budget capacity to do things that come up as emergencies such as this. So we will have the budget capacity. We will come back to the council with some estimates on how much it'll cost, and we will go ahead and make the budgetary adjustments as we go through the budget process.
Okay. So any questions, council? Comments? Any more questions or comments? You made us very happy tonight. Yes, thank you.
Look at the bottom line. I'm not.
We just love this kind of news about being forced to do these things by the state of Arizona.
And Mayor and Council will be bringing you an ordinance then for your consideration in the not too distant future.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Walker, for your taking time out and for being willing to work with us on short notice. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next item. Public hearing regarding a minor amendment to the city's general plan to change a zone classification from AR 43 agriculture single family residential to R2 single family multiple family in an area located at the southwest corner of Camino Real and First Street. And we have George Gaylord with us tonight to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. This may take a minute. This item on the agenda has to do with a public hearing for the purpose of airing a development proposal by Mingus Union High School District Number 4 regarding a piece of property that they have owned for many years just west of Camino Real, Camino Way. Yeah, Camino Real. This is the high school, and this is the 15-acre portion of property that they have owned west of Camino Real and south of First Street. This, again, is the high school. This is the city boundary currently along First Street and along the west part of the property and the south boundary of the high school. It's located within a single-family area as part of this extension of Verde Village, as well as to the north you've got the former Lomos Snagua Cottonwood Commons project, as well as a couple of churches in this location, and this is kind of the part of the commercial area along Highway 260. There are two other items on your agenda pertaining to the project. Resolution 2697 regarding a proposed amendment to the city's general plan, as well as a zone change under ordinance, is it 5, I don't have it in front of me, 595, that would effectively change the zoning from AR 43 to R2 in order to establish the density that's been proposed by the project. Again, this is a 15-acre parcel. What's being proposed is a community of duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes that would together total about 165 units. We have received from the applicants a preliminary site plan describing in concept their proposal. We had asked for this to support the proposed general plan amendment as well as the zone change. It establishes a series of multifamily pods, largely along accessing Camino Real, as well as an additional pod over here accessing First Street. The property, if you're acquainted with it, is characterized by some rather rolling topography that slopes from Camino down toward First Street, and we've got the extension of a wash corridor across the northwest corner. We characterize this as a minor amendment to the general plan, basically because it's less than 100 acres in size. The city has a policy regarding general plan amendments, and anything lower than that volume would equate to a minor amendment, and the significance of that is there's a different approach to a major amendment. If this was 100 acres or more, there would be a calendared process that begins early in the year and results in a hearing at the end of the year. The way we looked at this seems to us to be a logical transition of land use between the high school as well as the single-family areas south and west of the site. As you see there, we've got a series of driveways along Camino that have been proposed, and as well as one-story and two-story architecture throughout the project. There was a community meeting that was held on February 15th to take comments from the community. Staff has notified everyone within 300 feet of the project, all property owners within 300 feet, by mail. We've also posted the site and advertised the commission meetings as well as the city council meetings this evening. There was a couple of issues that were highlighted. Actually, we outlined a series of comments that we received at the community meeting. We had an attendance by, I believe, 6 or 8 of the neighbors who were largely had questions about the project more than anything else. There was some concern about the density and the additional traffic impact on Camino, as well as what would result to the intersection. We've already got a pretty heavy traffic load at the Camino and First Street intersection. This project is being proposed in concept at this point in time. What we're recommending as a part of the associated zone change would be the later submittal of a final site plan and review and approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission that would provide a higher level of detail to the project, as well as traffic and drainage reports and studies that would highlight improvements that would have to go along with the construction of the project. Ultimately, the developer would be required to provide for them. We would also ask for things like architectural detailing for the structures and the landscaping as part of the design review process. And as pointed out in your materials, what we'd like to also require by way of the Ordinance 595 is basically prohibiting any further division of this property once the site plan is established. And the reason for that is so we're not fragmenting the access and drainage ways as well as the buffering of the neighbors next door. Haven't received too many comments to this point in time. I was approached by one gentleman a little earlier this evening who owns the property located just west of that, George Powell. Just concerned about the proximity of the structures to his home site, which is located right there. They are a little bit close to the boundary. One of the things that we'd highlighted in the way of a final site plan submittal is that with the provide for some greater buffering to the neighbors to the west.
So when the final one comes up, those might be moved over a little or not?
That's what we're encouraging, yes. There's different ways that we could address that subject. You could ask for a more open area along the boundary, or things like, say, single-story development close to the boundary, or elsewhere on the project, if it's affecting the views. This is a kind of a view corridor through here.
Mr. Alinsky?
Would you refresh my memory on the action the council took here recently in the last couple months? Didn't we abandon a right-of-way or something similar?
There was a section of old right-of-way that passes through here. I think it's the extension of a street further west. Is it Ombre? That's within Yavapai County. That's my understanding of the history of that thing. It's like a remnant right-of-way parcel that we had proposed to abandon as part of this project.
Okay. I'm a little concerned about the density, and I do think it's a good transition from the school campus to that property. But when you consider, I was out there earlier today, and when you consider all the surrounding neighborhood, the density does seem just out of character with the neighborhood. So I really think we should strongly consider, I know this isn't the final plan obviously, but I really think we should strongly consider a greater buffer and maybe pushing that the two-story and the more dense duplexes and triplexes closer to the Camino Real to encourage less density along the property line, because I can imagine those neighbors would be pretty upset by that. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, I don't know. I read the comments and it seemed like that was a question that came up.
Interestingly, we haven't had much of a response. We did have the community meeting. We had, as I say, about 6 or 7 people show up. 1 or 2 of them were from this vicinity right here. We had a couple across the street from Cottonwood Commons, and 1 or 2 others.
Yeah,
haven't received anything. In fact, we've notified the folks 3 times.
Yeah.
Once because of the initial notification, once because of we had to change the location of the hearing, and thirdly, we had to change the date of the hearing because the first one I sent out was too far in advance, I guess.
Yeah.
So they've had ample notice.
I just fear that, that because some people don't really think about it until it's getting built, and then all of a sudden it's far too late. I just think we could probably, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type of philosophy, get ahead of some of the complaints, and maybe, I'm not asking for any less density. I think, if we could cap it at 165 units, then that's fine. I'm just thinking if we can just create a better buffer. And visually, I think it'd help that neighborhood out a little bit, because when you look at the other adjacent properties, it's all AR 43 back along there, isn't there?
This is it's like a 1/3 acre lot.
Yeah,
is it 1/4 acre?
roughly.
This is all you have by county over here. I think it's R1, but I think it's something on the order of a 1/3 acre.
Okay.
1/3 to a 1/4.
Okay.
118. Well, that's half acre.
It's half acre. That's
half acre.
And 43 that's a full acre, right? Okay. Yeah. But you see what I'm saying. It seems that's obviously much denser, but that's my only thought. But I think it's a great infill project, and seems to be a good project.
Yes, Mr. Dowling?
Do we have any estimates? Because I know that some of the comments I had read were very voiced some concern over the school, and that would be negatively impact the school. But I really thought about that. If we looked at the possible, what's happening here is just really just sort of enhancing that piece of property, because the sale of that property basically goes right back to the school. So are there any estimates on what the increase in value would be with the zone change? On just how much that will increase and go back to the capital improvement of the high school? You can't really know what somebody's going to pay for it, but are there some general estimates of what that differential would be?
I can defer to the applicant on that.
Okay, whenever that comes up.
Gardner is the representative.
Okay. When that comes up in time, that's fine.
Comments or questions? So with the general plan amendment, this is all it takes to change the general plan, is this item and the resolution?
This is a minor amendment.
Minor? Okay.
Yeah, if this were a major amendment, 100 acres and more, in fact, depending on the categories, some of them step down to 40 acres, but this is, I don't believe this is one of them. There is a calendared process for the review of a major amendment that begins with a submittal early in the year and a rather extensive process of review over the next 6 months that results in a December hearing. This does not trigger that.
Now, I guess I have a question. Are there any special circumstances that led this to be, or what are the historic circumstances that led this to be zoned the way it is? And are we sort of correcting a problem that should have been taken care of in the first place? Prior to where we're at now, are we sort of just mending it to where it should have been?
Honestly, I'm not acquainted with the history of this. The zoning is AR 43 on the west side of Camino, and the east, where the high school campus is zoned AR 20.
As I understand, it was dedicated to the school at one point, and at that point, the school is its own political entity, and it could sort of determine what the density or zoning would be. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm just curious.
So long as it's used for a public facility, the school purpose, something that's conventional, typical to a school district.
So we do have Mike Gardner from Casa Verde Consulting here tonight. Did you have any comments for King?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. I am Mike Gardner with Casa Verde Consulting, 1800 South Quail Run, Cottonwood. Where do I begin? I think the best way to begin on this is to realize that since 1864, when the first settlers came over here and started settling the Verde Valley and started bringing their women folks and their kids over here, there was a need for schools. Over the history of Arizona and many of the southwestern states over the years, we find that the public is who started the schools, got the schools going, cared for the schools, cared for the teachers. Back in the 1870s, one of our famous legislators became an Arizona resident because she was brought from St. Louis to be a teacher in our schools. And at that time, they literally put the teacher up in one of the people's houses, one of the students' houses. The community got together, they built the school, they helped pay the teacher's salary, they built the desks, etc. This kind of comes full circle in 1971. There was a need for a new school in the district right after it had become Mingus. And at the time, Pat Patterson was still on the board, and he went over to Emil Mangini and twisted his arm really good and said, we need a new spot for a school. And Mangini family came forward and gave them the property that we see Mingus on now. It was about 60 acres. It was divided by Highway 279, which was the active highway at the time. They also dedicated some right-of-way to get from the school to the new 279. It's actually the extension of First Street is what was dedicated with it. And for 40-some years now, this high school has had this property. They've debated its use. They've debated what they could put there. They've struggled with it many times because the state funding board says as long as Camino Real runs through there, you're not going to get to do anything with it. It's too big a hazard. They even went so far, back around 2004, I believe, to pay a local engineering company to completely redesign Camino Real so it went all along the back of Unit 6 and allow them to use the property. Well, obviously the cost of that was more than the property was worth. And so in 2008, the board finally decided that they needed to sell this property. The voters approved it. And at that time, the market was going right down the tubes. So they sat on it. And what probably should have happened not in the 94-95 update, but in the 2003-2004 update, they knew this was coming, and they probably should have communicated with the city at the time during our update that something else would happen with that. Because over the years, we put educational facility on that because it was, not because we were thinking of what it might be, but because we thought it was always going to be the school. By 2004-2005 update, they really should have been in here to say, gosh, we're not going to have that anymore, and let's change it now. Obviously, our timing is right before the update is happening now. Obviously, we've made our comments as to what the school would like to see there. And basically, the school and the board and the subsequent boards have decided that yes, they need to sell it, but yes, they need to have some modicum of control over what happens there rather than just sell it open market. And if it were sold open market and somebody came to me for advice on what to do with that, we would probably say that's an excellent place for medium to high density residential. And that's probably the application you would see. Under this scenario, what we're really trying to do is establish a density for this property and also give notice to the council, to the community, what the high school wants to see there. That way, if somebody comes in and buys this property from them tomorrow, comes in and says, I want to put major commercial there or high density apartments, the council, the community already knows the feelings of the school and would hopefully take that into consideration. As far as the planning rationale, general plan amendment, what the general plan could say on that property over the past 20 years, I think that's all in your packet, and I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you at any time. Councilmember Dowling, there is no real good estimate right now on properties because nothing sells. At the height of the market, that probably would have been worth 75 to 80,000 an acre easily. Today, you might not get 20, you just don't know.
Yep.
But the market is beginning to come back up. Bear property is starting to sell somewhat, and there is interest in this kind of property now. So this was decided to be the time to get this done and to get it out on the market by the time the trend had turned around. With that, I would just say that what we're really doing is letting Mingus cash in their savings account. And what we're really doing is giving them the interest on it. Because that old AR-43, I think we all know it's not going to be 1 acre horse properties next to the high school. And I think we've all known that for a long time. When I built my first house on, as a contractor on, right against it, right there on Hermas Lane, I always thought, man, what a great place this would be for, like, a condo project or something like that. Most people didn't even know who owned that property for years. And so it sat there. And I think what we're really doing is giving the high school the opportunity to cash in on their account. And as Councilmember Downing said, it goes directly back to the school, has to go right back into the capital improvement fund. So it's not something that can be fiddled with. It goes right back to capital improvements. And Mr. Foyce could not be here tonight. I apologize for that. He would have been glad to address you, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer on his behalf or ours.
Any more questions, Council? Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Gardner. Can we get the lights on, please? Thank you. Okay, so moving back over here. Are there any comments from the public, members of the public on this item?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Dowling, please.
I move to approve Resolution 2697, amending the land use designation established by the Cottonwood General Plan for a 15-acre parcel owned by Mingus Union High School District Number 4, and more particularly described in Ordinance 595, from public, semi-public, institutional to residential medium density.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Dowling made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, please read, Deputy Clerk, please read Resolution number 2697 by title only.
Resolution number 2697, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving a minor amendment to the city's general plan. Madam Mayor.
And Madam Mayor, just point of clarification, we did have the public hearing and you called for comment as part of that hearing item.
Last time, yeah. Okay. Okay, ordinance number 595, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona for a parcel of land totaling approximately 15 acres in size, so as to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present zoning of AR-43 agricultural single-family residential to R2 single-family multiple family first reading. Mr. Gaylord.
Once again, Madam Mayor, Council, this is the first reading, so no action is necessary on Ordinance 595. But just for your information, on March 18th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance subject to the following stipulations. One, that a final site plan be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, together with building elevations, grading, drainage, surfacing, and landscape plans prior to issuance of any permits. Two, that the total number of residential units be limited to 165. 3, that the final site plan establish methods for buffering adjacent residential development located to the south and west boundaries. 4, that access points adjacent to the First Street intersection be eliminated and other access drives be consolidated to the extent feasible. 5, that all required rights-of-way and utility easements be dedicated by plat or otherwise recorded as may be required by the city. Any division of this property into 4 or more lots will require plat approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. 6, that any subsequent minor divisions of this property also be subject to review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. 7, that the developer provide traffic and drainage studies and be responsible for all related improvements determined to be necessary to offset impacts of the resulting development per ordinance 144. 8, that a building permit be issued within 5 years of the action, or the action is null and void.
Whoa, you said 5, it says 2 here.
Excuse me?
Didn't you say 5?
The ordinance says 5, yes. You may be looking at the P&Z memo. At that
Am I in the wrong place?
I think the packet has it at 2, it got adjusted to 5.
Staff had recommended 2 years, yeah, and P&Z
Okay,
amended that to
gotcha.
5.
Got it, okay.
The ordinance reads 5.
Okay.
Number 9, that all other code review comments be addressed. Again, this is the first reading, so there's no action this evening.
Any questions, council? Okay. Any comments from members of the public? If not, City Clerk, please read ordinance number 595 by title only.
Ordinance number 595, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning map of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona for a parcel of land totaling approximately 15 acres in size, so as to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present zoning of AR 43 agricultural single family residential to R2 family multiple family. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 6, resolution number 2695, appointing A. Douglas Lasota as the city's presiding magistrate for a 2-year term. Is that something that we're going to need to go into executive session to discuss?
Perhaps, Madam Mayor, in either event, I would recommend to you and the council that you move this to the final item on the agenda.
Okay, so we'll move this to our last item. Item number 7, approving the purchase of a water play interactive water feature from Whitewater West Industries for the Recreation Center indoor pool in the amount of $163,096 plus applicable sales tax, subject to the city attorney's approval of a sales tax contract. Mr. Manjapan, thank you for being with us all night for this very long meeting.
Not a problem.
It's your turn now.
Yep. Coming to you, Madam Mayor and members of the council, coming to you tonight for your consideration of the purchase of a water play interactive water feature for the rec center indoor pool. To go back a little on the history on this, the purchase and installation of this feature was contemplated and was always considered when we were doing the recreation center. Budgets got a little bit tight towards the end of the project. This item got put on hold, prioritized with the solar thermal system for the use of the remaining funds. We did install support structures and plumbing underground, obviously, to get from the pump room into that into the pool area where the structure would go. So we have built that in. And there's a comment here is installed as part of the rec center indoor pool construction, so it was in the city's best economic interest to purchase this model of water feature. We built ourselves into a little bit of a corner where we had to put in the infrastructure for this facility, this piece of equipment, at the time we were building the rec center and building the pool. Now we have to go with that brand and that style piece of equipment because that's what fit on what we have in the ground. We did negotiate with the vendor over the course of several weeks to get the price $56 lower than the initial quote. The vendor for this is in California. We worked with them as well as our previous pool consultants to work out the price on that and find out what we could do as far as purchasing the unit directly. It does have a long lead time. Right now we're looking at trying to get it purchased so that it's delivered in time to install during the November shutdown of the rec center. It sounds like a long ways off, but for them, they don't manufacture any of these things ahead of time. It gets manufactured when you order it. And so we do need to get it on order. That's why we're coming to you now. We will solicit quotes for the actual installation, as we're buying the unit from the manufacturer, but we will put it out to bid to get quotes on the actual installation of the unit. Then the manufacturer comes back and reviews it and signs off on the unit once it's done. And that'll happen closer to the installation date, so we get more accurate numbers and numbers that aren't sitting waiting for 6 months. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Does their cost include coming out from California to look at it and saying it looks good?
Yes.
Their cost of the unit doesn't.
Yeah, it's a. They have a term for it. It's not licensing, but it's their version of an inspection.
It's an inspection.
Okay.
And that's a condition of their warranty, and that is something that Dan specifically negotiated with them, make sure that's in there, and that's one of the places where he got them to sharpen their pencils quite a bit. Yeah. If I could add just I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The company's actually in Colorado. I spoke with a gentleman, the sales rep. We have produced, we got a contract from them. It had some concerns. Anytime you get a contract from a vendor, we're going to have some concerns. So we provided them our form of contract. The sales rep looked at it, saw it was fair. He was going to forward it on to his legal VP. But he thought there wouldn't be many, if any, problems with it. We negotiated because their transport charge estimate was excessive, so we agreed to purchase it at the site of manufacturer, which I just learned today would not be our preferred site in Oregon, but in British Columbia, so we'll have to get it over that national border. And then, like Scott said, with a one-off item like this, it's a little unique. We're not buying something off the shelf, so there would be, and they proposed a very large upfront payment and then pretty accelerated payments until we'd actually bought the thing before we actually had it here, pretty much. What we counter-propose to them is that we give them, on approval of the contract, 25% of the purchase price, and then at 50% completion of manufacture, another 25%, and then when it's loaded on the truck from the carrier we contract with to bring it down here, another 25%, and then the final 25%, which I suspect is their profit margin, only when the thing is down here installed and shooting water. So that's what we proposed, and that seemed fair to them. They've just now, and I just forwarded it to Scott, sent us an RFI so they can begin the engineering on it. A request for information. So I think they probably have some questions about our specific needs and preferences. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't looked at the RFI. But anyway, so that's where we're at in terms of the discussions with the vendor.
And you may want to clarify also, see the procurement policy question as far as, because Dan gets into it here, the section, the policy, and...
Oh, right. We're asking you to waive, the procurement policy allows you to waive the competitive procurement process that we would ordinarily use here because of exactly what Scott described. We have a facility that needs a particular apparatus, and staff have identified this company as the vendor, either the or the preferred vendor of this particular apparatus. So it seems like this is one of those cases where we specifically provided for the possibility of not engaging in a futile procurement and allowing you to waive the policy.
Makes sense in this instance.
I mean, I did talk to the consultant who did the original design for the pool as well as for the equipment. We always had this designed in. We pulled it out towards the middle of the project because we knew the funding issues. And to put any other manufacturer's equipment in there would literally involve doing some reconstruction work on the pool. And
cost a lot more.
Yeah, that's an expense that would probably eliminate the possibility of even doing the project.
Well, we had estimated 200 to 250,000 at first, right? So this seems like a pretty good amount.
Right now, there is no, we haven't nailed down the installation cost yet, and right now the estimate for that is 20 to 25,000. It may be a little bit higher than that because we also have to put new pumps in, new electrical to serve the pumps, because we didn't put the pumps in when we bought the equipment because they would have been sitting there for 3 years. So you don't buy the pumps from this vendor, but we have to buy them on our own and put them in also. And we're in the process of doing the engineering and the cost estimating for that, but we haven't got those numbers yet either.
And we have to get it here from British Columbia unless Richard wants to drive over there and pick it up.
Just a moment, Mr. Osher. Just a moment. Are you finished? Are you finished, Scott?
I think so, unless anyone has any specific questions.
Council, do you have any questions? Mr. Osher? Thank you, Mr. Manjapan.
Whitewater equipment for the pool?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just have a comment. I observed that the whole rec center has been a financial burden, and it costs to maintain it quite a bit each year. I have a question regarding the actual use and need of this added equipment. Is it helping especially to people who have problems and physical problems? What is the real justification for this? It seems like you have a beautiful setup right now with the pool, way beyond most cities, certainly is of this size. I'm sorry I couldn't hear all of what he was presenting, but what is the rationale for having this besides the added financial burden that the money could be used elsewhere, probably more effectively? That's my question. I would appreciate that being addressed.
Thank you.
I'll answer
it. We can tag team if you like.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Tim, Mr. Elinsky said he would answer it, but this is something that was planned with the original recreation center, and we did not have the budget funds at those times. But we plumbed for it, we made arrangements for it, and we were ready for it. This is also a request from our Parks and Recreation Commission, who asked for this when we met last year and requested that the council fund it. But what it's for is for the children. It's a play set for our children in the community.
But they have a tremendous facility right now in the water. Even though it's not my business, I'm just curious.
Oh, it is your business.
And it seems like there's been monies spent that overspent what the capacity of the city was. So,
we appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Elinsky?
I wanted to say, Jules, your comments are well taken, and it does seem like we're pouring a lot of money into it, but there was an expectation in the beginning that this would be installed, and so we made a promise to the community that it would be installed. And we put that promise off a little bit to install an energy-efficient solar thermal system, which would actually help save money at the recreation center prior to installing this. So I feel like we've done everything we can, but we do have to hold good to our promise that we made.
One last comment. Is this going to in any way improve the funds available for the recreation center? Is it going to bring in more money as a matter of service and then a matter of financing?
Thank you. Mr. Faust.
Madam Mayor and City Council, if I might be able to answer a few of those questions as we do this tide team scenario. I think from the very beginning we were looking at when the original plans came out from from Barker Rinker CCAT, the architectural firm, and then when it was presented at the two different public forums for the recreation center back in 2000 and I think it was 8 and 9, that piece of equipment was identified in what the public actually visioned and saw, and then the public voted on that, and that was one of the things that they were specifically identifying as it pertains to the amenities that were going to be offered. This was one of the items that was hopefully going to provide for between children of ages between 3 and 12 years of age, whereas right now we don't have that much except for the water slide that's offered right now. We have had a lot of requests for additional facilities. We've had requests for people that say, well, there's nothing for my kids to do in the pool facility. And then I know in talking with Rudy, one of the circumstances was that bond money, when it was originally identified, is that the bond money, the way that it was set up on the initiative, was also specifically to be utilized for the recreation center or of like kind, I think, for the library or something along those lines. So in other words, it would have had to have been pushed into one of those slots. But this was one that was identified for some time. Again, like Madam Mayor, you had indicated, our hope is that we will see additional people coming in. Our hope is that we will see additional revenues come in because of that. So that's one of the things our hope is that we can't say for sure, but again, that's one of the areas that the Parks and Recreation Commission felt that was a needed amenity at that time period and still does today.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
If you've ever had a small child in there from 3 to probably 6 or 7 that can't go through the lazy river because they're not tall enough, they don't swim well enough, and the bigger children are using that, they get bored very quickly, and there's not that much for the littler people to do, and that's where this would really come in handy.
What was that?
Scott, what was that?
I hope it wasn't Scott's pacemaker.
Silence long enough.
Okay. Okay. Any more comments from members of the public?
I feel it's justified by the fact that it will assist smaller children to negotiate that river and been their good help.
Not to negotiate the river, but they can't go through the river without an adult holding them up because the river's higher than what they are. And it will give those smaller children an area to play where they're safer and they won't be getting out into the river with the bigger children. They'll be playing on the apparatus more. And it will give them much more exercise also and get them used to having the water in their face and playing in the water, and they'll stay longer.
It's going to replace an adult.
No, the adults still have to be there with the children.
And I think that the one thing just to kind of identify also, at this point in time, for little children, the zero depth pool facility is there for 0 to 2-year-olds primarily, and that's that real small area of the pool. And then you have the spa area, which can contain up to around 18 to 22 people, but again, children are not allowed in that. And then again, the lazy river is difficult, so the children have to be kind of handheld in that. That was one of the reasons why this amenity was identified, was that the slide is realistically the only thing that the kids can play on at this time period. So kids in reality don't really go into the indoor pool. And so this will function as that. There will be 2 decks, 2 platform decks, and they will have various different water features on that, just as a regular playground does, except for you add water to it. And so there'd be more things for them to do.
It's also important to note, and we shouldn't lose sight, that one of the members of the Parks and Rec Commission is a bodybuilder. And if we don't approve this, I'm scared what he might do. So he was a huge advocate, and he's a imposing figure. So,
and anytime we can get kids there, that will encourage their parents to be there, and that will, in the end, foster the possibility of increased attendance.
And they won't be sitting in front of a screen or having these things like iPads and stuff like that to play with. They'll be out there actually exercising and playing.
Encouraging our children to move.
Right.
Or if they do, it'll sound like Scott over there.
Yeah, it did sound like it was underwater, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I will tackle that motion. All right, I move to waive the city's procurement policy as authorized by section 6.c thereof and approve the purchase of a water play interactive water feature from Whitewater West Industries for the Recreation Center indoor pool in the amount of $163,000, $163,096 plus applicable sales tax, subject to the negotiation and approval by the city attorney of a final form of purchase agreement. Second. Period. Second.
Okay, Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Mr. Dowling seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Please note for the record that Councilmember Norman was not here for the vote. Okay, Rec Center items, Mr. Faust.
Madam Mayor and Council, this is a requested action on the behalf of staff, whereby staff is asking Council to approve and authorize and advertise the position of Recreation Coordinator 2, as well as along with the authorization of upgrades or what we deem as reclassifications involving 2 additional positions within the Community Services Department of the Cottonwood Recreation Center Recreation Division Operations. Before I get into the actual positions, if I may, I'd just kind of go back on the history of this as to where we were. On April 9th, 2013, staff brought before the City Council specific information as to cost recovery options at the Cottonwood Recreation Center. And again, it was one of those issues whereby, as we presented to the council, our concern has been that the Cottonwood Recreation Center has had about a 3-year period where we've been open, but we have had sliding cost recovery scenarios that have gone down over the last 3 years since the construction and opening in 2010. This widening gap between the center expenditures and revenues has concerned staff, as well as I know we've specifically gotten with the city manager as well as the city finance people to go over this. But one of the things that the city manager wanted was some specific options. How are we going to get from point A to point B once again to get ourselves back up to where we should have been according to the feasibility study that was done prior to the construction of the Cottonwood Recreation Center, which identified a feasibility area of around 64 to 65% cost recovery. Our direction to the council was to provide these options that would be desirable on their behalf and provide a potent plan of action to narrow the gap over the next 3 to 4 years. Primary to the options presented included the formula for eliminating of the current recreation manager position. Seeing that the position is open or was open at this time period, the recreation manager is a range 29, which is $63,853 to $94,095 a year. With current requests by applicants that we observed, there was well over 50 applicants. We were looking at probably bringing someone on right around the mid-level of the position, but they were asking for $75,000 to $78,000 annually. But you know, where we were thinking is that when you add all of the benefits, you're looking at probably close to $110,000 to $115,000. So when we're coming before the council, it's something that we're looking at, and where we were looking at specifically was, all right, where do we transfer a lot of the authority of the position? Where does the administrative oversight come into being with the recreation center? Because this position functions in such a high level of management. And so what our thoughts were is that we do have 2 younger individuals that actually applied for this position, but we felt that what we could do is as we eliminate the position, we would have them increase in responsibility. And as we looked at that and we put the job descriptions together, we were looking at probably a reclassification of their range 22 to a higher level. At this point in time, we haven't gone over, we have not come to a decision yet as to what that reclassification level would be. The one thing that Iris Dobler, the Human Resources Manager, wanted to do was to send this, both of the job descriptions back down to the wage salary survey team that did the original wage salary survey, have them go back over it and then recommend, seeing that we had spent all of this money and time involved with that team, have them actually make those recommendations back to us, and we would follow up on that. But at this point in time, we're looking at, and I'll get back to the 2 positions as well as the coordinator position. We're looking at the coordinator position as being a position that would encapsulate both sports and leisure, and then also for special events activities. That way we would be able to bring the 2 other supervisory level positions out of doing that, a lot of that work, and move them up a little bit in the management scale. This position for the Recreation Coordinator 2 would be at a range level 16, as we've gone through this with Human Resources and Finance, whereby they felt that this was adequate level to 2 other positions that we currently have on board, one being the fitness floor supervisor is a range 16, as well as the youth coordinator position, which is Brittany's position. So all 3 of these positions would be range 16, starting salary $33,862 to $49,901. The 2, getting back to the 2 positions right now, their current titles are Aquatic Center Supervisor, and we would like to change that to Recreation Services Supervisor, and that's over aquatics, sports, and special events. And the second reclassification, we have a current position of Recreation Center Supervisor, then we'd like to request that be reclassified as a Recreation Services Supervisor over Recreation Center Operations. We feel that this would then provide for an increase in the supervisory level, which is what we had asked for $8,000 for each one of those positions to be raised upwards. And that would actually then, that would go in line with the request for council to authorize these positions to go retroactive back to April, I think it was April 14th. And with that, I wanted to make sure that council was apprised of, we put together an organizational structure, a chart for council to review, and so it provides you a little bit better of an understanding, is that directly underneath the Community Services General Manager was the Recreation Manager position, and now it's gone. So what you have is you have the structure of the two supervisors underneath the Community Services General Manager and reporting directly to that person, which is myself. And so with that, I'll answer any questions as it pertains to our request tonight, if council has any questions.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, in the end, it saves money. It reduces the amount of expenditures at the recreation center, so why would it not be a good thing?
Dare I say, this could almost be a no-brainer.
Yeah. Any comments or other questions for the council?
Just glad you're sending it down to that company that did the survey for us initially to have them review the salary range for the new positions that you've created. I think that
was a good idea of Iris Dobler.
Yeah, she's smart.
She's smart.
Yeah.
And she works for a smart guy.
Now, on that note, there's numbers floating around in here. Are those going to vary depending on what? Are we going to adjust the range to account for the numbers that are in here, or adjust the numbers to? Where is that head? Is this
a good question?
Is this definite, or is this depending upon what the result is of the survey?
Well, what we're asking for council is the immediacy of the $8,000 increase in both of their salaries at this present time period, which both of them are right around 40. I think they're really close to 45 or 46,000. So this would bump them up into the 50s range. And so this would be immediate back to April 14th on retroactivity aspect of it. But then we would have to wait according to where they would be. They would not fluctuate within the context of their salary. That would be set as of tonight. But their range could increase as it pertains to the job description and the review of the team, or the wage salary team. If they look at it, they could either identify it probably as either a range 23 or possibly a range 24. And so that would increase it on the upper end of the scale for these two people if they do identify that back to HR.
So you mentioned this recreation coordinator, you said Brittany's current job?
Brittany's a recreation coordinator, but her title is youth services.
Okay, is the one that we share, right? Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the shared position. And then there's also a range 16, which that's the fitness floor supervisor position. Mm-hmm. That's Trevor Faust's position, so there's two already in that classification.
Okay. Gotcha. Any other questions, council members? Any comments from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here.
You're good at it.
Oh, yeah, I hope. Let's see here. Let me find it. Come on. Okay, I move to authorize the establishment of a new Recreation Coordinator 2 position within the city's staffing plan at range 16, to change the position titles of Aquatic Center Supervisor and Recreation Center Supervisor to Recreation Services Supervisor over Aquatics, Sports and Special Events and Recreation Services Supervisor over Recreation Center Operations, pursuant to the revised job descriptions for those positions, and to increase their current annual salaries of the individuals currently holding those positions by $8,000 effective April 14th, 2013.
Second.
Mr. Dowling made the motion. Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, council, very much.
Thank you. Okay, the claims. I move we pay the claims.
I'll second.
Okay, the mayor made the motion, and Councilmember Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, back to item, resolution number 2695. Or wait, magistrate reappointment, resolution number 2695. Thank you very much. So we're on our agenda item, resolution number 2695, reappointing the city magistrate to a 2-year term commencing on April 13th, 2013, and approving an employment agreement. And would you advise that we might go into?
I would recommend that the council consider convening in a brief executive session to cover just a couple matters with me.
Okay, so I would make the motion to convene into executive session.
Second.
And Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's enough of us. Will you please note for the record that Vice Mayor was absent for this vote? Okay.
Second.
The mayor made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so where are we? Hang on just a second. Magistrate reappointment. So we're here tonight to consider the reappointment of incumbent city magistrate A. Douglas Lasota to a new 2-year term and approving his new employment agreement. So do you have any comments or?
And maybe, Judge, before you do, Madam Mayor, it might help the judge's presentation if I make a presentation to you. And
would you please,
Judge,
so that the public can more understand what we're discussing here.
Right. Pursuant to the judge's, this every 2-year review process that over the course of 2 meetings and many weeks and a lot of due diligence, the council directed staff to bring back to you a resolution reappointing the magistrate for another 2-year term and an associated employment agreement. There were a couple of points in the agreement that we just want to clarify here, and one is the judge has requested that on his 5th anniversary, this is his 4th anniversary, on his 5th anniversary he has requested that his contract reflect that he will then begin to accrue 5 weeks of annual vacation time. Also in the draft in your packet, I had removed a provision governing the reimbursement of moving expenses, thinking that was no longer relevant, given that the judge has been here 4 years, but the judge has indicated that he may yet have occasion to move his family, relocate his whole family. He spends time here, but his family is down in the valley. So with the council's consent, we would have you approve the resolution with the agreement attached, with the caveats that on the judge's 5th anniversary of employment, he would begin to accrue 5 weeks of annual vacation, and that the moving reimbursement provision be restored to the agreement, would be the recommendation.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Judge.
With that, I'll keep my comments very brief. If there's anybody still watching in the listening audience, we'd encourage everybody to take a look at the new website for the court. It's on the city website, and you go to cottonwoodaz.gov, you click on departments, do the drop-down box to municipal court, and there we are. And it goes through all different areas: civil, criminal, orders of protection, frequently asked questions, the location. It's got a picture of the courthouse. It's got a Google map that you can go to. We've done a lot of detailed work on that, and we're very proud of it. So we hope that people will take advantage of that if they have the need to come to court, even for a parking ticket or something. And then the other major thing during the past year is the fact that now all employees are judicial officers. So everybody that walks in the building, everybody that they deal with, is a judicial officer who also have enhanced ethical responsibilities as well. So, and that's been working out quite well. So we're proud of that as well. And I'm very proud of my staff, and I think the council's noticed through the interview process that, you know, I have very experienced staff. They're very mature, they're very professional, and they service our community well. So I'm proud to have them assisting me in running the court. Thank you. And I look forward to more years of service with the city.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No.
I would entertain a motion then.
So I'll move to approve Resolution 2695, appointing A. Douglas Lasota for a 2-year term as city magistrate for the city of Cottonwood, approving the employment agreement as presented with 2 amendments, corrections, that we would provide 5 weeks of annual vacation leave upon his 5th year anniversary with the city, and to reinsert the moving expenses, which was taken away from the contract.
Second. Okay. Councilmember Elinsky made the motion. The Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number 2695.
Resolution number 2695, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, reappointing A. Douglas Lasota as City Magistrate and establishing his new term of office. Madam Mayor.
I have one question. We didn't mention that this should be backdated to April 13th. Do we need to?
I think if that is the council's direction,
Because it's in the contract.
right, and
So
without
we're
objection,
okay.
we'll make sure that that's how this is implemented.
Okay, so no objection? Okay. And I think it was mentioned in the contract, so we're really covered. Okay, thank you, Judge.
Right, thank you all.
Go out and do
Anybody
great
has
work for
visited
the
court,
citizens
feel
of
free to stop
Cottonwood.
by sometime.
All right.
All right,
They have
thank
a
you.
buffet there, right? For lunch? No? Okay. Sorry.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
The mayor made the motion, Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.